Devin, McCourty, Football Night in America, studio analyst, three-time Super Bowl champ. Big game Sunday night, Chargers and the Bengals. It feels like every game for the Bengals is, hey, this is their elimination game, but they're still alive here. And I think they have the best odds to still make the playoffs of the teams that have losing records here. What do you make of this matchup, Devin?
Yeah, it should be a fun matchup, and I agree with you. I think each week they play, I think we're all expecting to see like this coming out game where they just blow somebody out of the water, or they get a big game and they keep falling short. So it makes us say, oh, this team, they won't make it, they have no shot. But then when you go and look at the standings, you realize they might have the best shot out of anybody to get into that 6 or 7 spot and get into the playoffs. So I think this will be a big game for them against the Chargers, especially because they have to play Pittsburgh twice before the season ends. But I won't say they're finished even if they lose this game, but I think winning this game will propel them to definitely lock down one of those last spots in the playoffs.
The other LA team plays against your Patriots. Like, this is a weird game for the Rams. Like, they have to win this game. Like it just, like if you said most must-win game of the weekend, I would include this because if they all of a sudden drop out of playoff contention, like let's look big picture. Is Sean McVay going to be back there next year? Is Matthew Stafford, do they do anything in the offseason? I don't know if it's that important right now, but it certainly is a weird game coming off a home game where you lost to the Dolphins.
Well, especially when you think back to a few weeks ago, right before the trade deadline, it was there's a chance Matthew Stafford gets traded to the Vikings. It's a chance Cooper Kupp gets traded. Then they win Thursday night against the Vikings, and all of a sudden they're alive for the playoffs and all of these things. So I got to imagine if they don't make the playoffs and this season doesn't end in a way that they feel good about, I got to imagine they make a lot of changes there and they start to move to the next wave or the next team of the Rams and what they want to do. And me and Mike Florio talked about it on Pro Football Talk. With the 7th spot in the playoffs, there's a chance the Patriots are looking like, if we get this win, why not us? Why not? Why can't we jump back in and get in this hunt? So I think the Rams will be in for a tough game in Foxborough early on Sunday, not a normal thing for them traveling from the West Coast.
Is it just a coincidence that we're seeing you got the Lions, you got the Ravens, you got the Eagles, they run the football. They're very successful. Is it just a coincidence, or do you start to see that teams are going to rely on the run a little bit more than we have in previous years?
I think so. I think especially how we talked about how the season started with the low scoring and not many pass attempts and passing touchdowns. You know, in the last few years, all we've heard about is devalue the running back. We can get a running back anywhere. And we see these teams who have invested in their running backs, how big of a role they're playing. Saquon Barkley, you look at Jacobs in Green Bay, you look at Sonic and Knuckles, Montgomery and Gibbs in Detroit. Like, these teams feature these running backs, and they're coming through. They're playing the big games. They're making the big plays. So, yeah, you know, playing in New England for 13 years, Coach Belichick used to always say, running the football is the formula in the playoffs. It's how good teams become championship teams, and I think we're seeing that firsthand with a lot of these good teams in the NFL right now.
But also you buy into play action now. Play action really does mean something and makes these quarterbacks even better. Let me start with what Saquon Barkley is doing, because we can make an argument that he's had a better year than Derrick Henry. And I don't think people were going to say that a couple of weeks ago, but it feels like that offense is going through Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, even how the season started. Remember, he's out in Brazil against Green Bay, 3 touchdowns to start off his Eagles career, and all he's done since that is set up everybody else. So no matter what his numbers look like at the end of any game, when you watch the game, he is setting up the throws to A.J. Brown, the throws to Devontae Smith, the Jalen Hurts 1-yard runs, you know, on the goal line. So this team has revolved around Saquon Barkley, and you saw last night, as he gets going and in any given moment in a game, he can make 1 or 2 cuts and he's gone. That playmaking ability from the running back position, running and catching the ball, the guy's phenomenal. And, you know, credit to him of all the talk about him not being the same. He gets to a new spot and shows his value. And, I mean, arguably could be, you know, the offensive player of the year playing running back the way he's played this year.
And in fairness, though, to the Giants, I know they didn't bring him back. I would have brought him back. If I'm bringing Daniel Jones back, I have to have Saquon because Daniel Jones needs Saquon. But Saquon wouldn't be doing this for the Giants this year. He's with the perfect team. Derrick Henry wouldn't be doing this for the Titans or the Cowboys.
Yep.
He's with the perfect team. So I think, everybody's going to bang on the Giants to say, how could you let him go? They should have let Daniel Jones go, and if you want to let Saquon go, and then do a complete rebuild. I think that's where they made the mistake here. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, and it's a tough situation for them because once you let Hard Knocks in, we get to see everything. And I think the way they value Saquon Barkley, if you value a guy around the market and you understand, hey, we might be losing him for this price, and it felt like they thought they would lose him possibly for like $10 million a year, when realistically a year ago they offered him more money than that. So I think if we would have taken this back a year ago, they would have matched that offer and they would have paid it. But coming into this offseason, they just didn't think anybody else would pay him. And I think that's what stings the Giants fans as you watch Hard Knocks and them sitting there saying, well, no one's going to pay him that. And then you find out Houston's willing, Philly's willing. And then you're seeing the impact. Even Joe Mixon, what he's doing at Houston, you're seeing what these running backs are doing for their teams. But then the Giants fans take a breath and realize what you just said, Dan. Even if he was there, you might win one more game, maybe two more games, but he wouldn't be the Philadelphia Eagles Saquon Barkley that we're seeing now.
He's Devin McCourty. You can see him on Football Night in America, studio analyst, won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots. There's been a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers led when he was on the field. He's not a leader, vocal leader off the field, in the locker room. You played with Brady. So Brady led by example, but he seemed to be very vocal in the locker room. Can you give us an idea of maybe what Brady did as opposed to what Rodgers is apparently doing or not doing?
Yeah, I'll speak to Tom. I think the best part about Tom's leadership came from he's this old guy in the locker room. At some point, he was the guys, the guys on our team, the young guys, he was the same age as their dads. And he made sure that they all felt welcome. He made sure that they felt like he was just a friend. And I think that enabled him to be one of the guys. And then from a leadership standpoint, yes, he was going to come in early. He was going to do all those things. He's going to go play great ball on Sundays. But when things weren't going right, he was going to let everybody know it was unacceptable. There was a standard that needed to be met, not just on Sunday when people would see him slam the surface or yell at guys. This would happen in practice. You start a period off in the first 3 plays, be bad. Coach Belichick sometimes wouldn't even have to say anything. Tom would start cursing everybody out and say, start the period over. This isn't good enough. And when you get a player that does stuff like that, everyone right away takes a step back and says, I need to step up. And that was Tom every single day. And I think you saw that even though I wasn't in that locker room. When he went to Tampa, everybody else's level went higher to try to meet his. One of the best leaders I got the opportunity to be around just day in and day out, leading guys by example, but also being a voice if he felt like that's what the team needed.
Did you play in the sunshine in Dallas?
I did. Danny Amendola, 2015, he has a really cool picture standing back, waiting to catch a kick. And I know he couldn't see the ball, but the photo that they got of him with the sun hitting, it should be somewhere hanging in his house. It was beautiful, but definitely couldn't see the ball.
Did he catch the ball?
Let the ball go over his head.
Okay.
Couldn't see it.
But is it a home field advantage? In fairness to Jerry Jones, is this a home field advantage for the Cowboys?
No. I mean, listen, you can know the sun's going to hit and you can try off the coin toss and all that of figuring out which quarter you want the sun, but which play in the game is going to be the play that decides the game. That's going to be the big, you can't determine only the fourth quarter matters, so we're going to do the sun that way. You can't do that in a game. And I think we saw that with CeeDee Lamb as he's running across and he's open, but he can't see the ball. That touchdown matters. You can't pick and choose that. So, yeah, there's some things that to me become a home field advantage because you can practice in it. When we were in New England, we practiced in the cold every single day. The cold was an advantage for us. You really, it's hard to practice the sun beating in your eyes and saying, hey, I'm going to throw the ball at you full speed, memorize how it's coming and catch it. You really can't do that. So I do not see that as a home field advantage for Dallas.
But you have to embrace the cold. You may not like the cold, but so if Tampa was coming up or the Dolphins were coming up, why can't they embrace it? Why can't they get acclimated to that?
You can try mentally, but the truth is science. Your body is used to being in 75, 80-degree weather, and as soon as you step off the plane, the wind, everything hits you like, whoa. It was the same way when we would go to Miami in December and January. We would go inside our indoor, crank the heat up, make it super hot, wear a sweatshirt in practice. When you stepped off that plane in Miami and that sun hit you, we knew right away. It felt like we had walked into a sauna. Your body has to try to acclimate right away, and it never works out the way you want. You can fight through it being mentally tough, but it's an adjustment that's not easy to make whenever you switch those climates.
Okay, but you had to see guys come on the field, teams come on the field in New England when it's cold, and just see it on their face, right?
Oh, when you see guys out there in pregame and they got 5 hoodies on, they got gloves, a hat, and they're over there and their hands are going like this nonstop. We would sit on the sideline and we was like, got them. We got them. Like they're done. They have no shot today. So it was always fun knowing if we could play at home in the playoffs and get a warm weather team. We felt pretty good about that.
Good to talk to you. We'll be watching Sunday night. Thank you, Devin.
No problem. Good to see you.
Devin McCourty, NBC Football Night in America studio analyst, and they got the Chargers and the Bengals, the most watched weekly studio show in sports for 18 consecutive years.